So how did you get to comedy? Did I get that out of you?
I didn't really get out of it. So I got into comedy. I moved to New York.
From where?
Well, I shouldn't say. I grew up in Rockland County, New York, which is like the suburbs of New York City.
Yeah.
And I moved to New York City in 2001, like a few days before 9/11.
Jesus Christ.
To go to school in New York, to go to Baruch College, and I got a job. I answered an ad in the newspaper, the Village Voice, to promote for comedy clubs, and the job was selling comedy club tickets on the street. And if you ever walk through Times Square,
Pete, what was that
Pete
show?
Holmes, yeah.
Pete Holmes is
that was my life.
Yeah,
but it was
what was the show called? Couch
Crashing, yes. But it was a little different. So that was barking was a real thing that comics would do for stage time, right?
Yeah.
So as a young comic, you'd go out. They call it barking. You'd stand out in front of your club and you'd go, "Hey, what's up? Do you want to come see this comedy show?" You get 5 people in, 10 people in. You get to get 5 minutes on stage that night, and that's how they were generating an audience at these little bar shows downtown in the Village.
Yeah.
And that's very real. And Pete Holmes did that. Nate Bargatze did that. A lot of guys did that. Mine's a little different because I wasn't a comic. I was a.
You just took the job.
I got a job selling comedy club tickets to strangers on the streets of New York City.
Wow.
Belly to belly sales. I would meet somebody, and then it was my job to get $20 out of their pocket for a few tickets to see some show that they didn't want to see. And it was the job actually taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about human beings. Taught me a lot about sales. It was very meat and potato sales. You know, you're stopping them. You shake their hand, ask them a few questions, figure out how your product fits their lifestyle. Don't accept no for an answer. Bring them through a closing triangle. Move on to the next person. You know, close 1 out of 4 people a day. Make $200 a day. It was for a 19-year-old kid. It was life changing for me because I grew up poor. I had never made any money. My mother never made more than $200 a week, and I'm this.
What was she doing?
She was a hooker. She was a bad hooker, apparently. Not very good at it.
And your dad, where was he?
My dad was murdered when I was 4 years old, being a pimp outside of a strip club in Paterson, New Jersey. All true. So my mom was like on drugs and on welfare and, just didn't have much motivation or inspiration.
Well, she's on drugs, so it's hard to.
And it's the suburbs, you know. And when you're in New York City, if you're poor,
Rockland's kind of nice though, right?
Certain areas, but I was in the shittiest area of Rockland. I was in West Haverstraw, New York, Railroad Avenue. I was literally living on Railroad Avenue, and it was just like there's no motivation. There's nobody that's trying to like win. Really, where I was at, it was like a lot of just people that were kind of
stuck.
Content being stuck, right? If you're in New York City, even if you're poor, you'll jump on the subway, and there's a guy who's like, going to live his dreams right there, and you're sort of in this big, amazing place. Yeah, you're in it, exactly. So, I started making maybe $600-700 a week selling comedy club tickets at 19 years old, and that was it. I was like, all right, I don't got to do anything else. I'll retire doing this. This is it. And that's how I was introduced to the world of comedy. But 9/11 played a big part in it because I started selling comedy club tickets like a week before 9/11. Then 9/11 hit, and a few days passed. And were you in New York at the time during 9/11?
I was there a couple weeks after.
Okay. So New York had an attitude, like you hear about New York strong or Boston strong or all, it really was like, fuck you. The terrorists are not going to win.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
That was like...
It was, I still to this day, I get chills when I think about it. I kept coming back afterwards because I wanted to support it and be a part of it.
It was like...
It was extraordinary.
It was almost like we didn't want to let them know that
you walk... what's the name of the rock? Is it Rock something highway? Was that Rock with the shit? Anyway, they'll go through the highways around New York, and there'd be flags and posters, and there's just was stuff everywhere supporting people.
There was a real sense of like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be a New Yorker. Yep. They attacked us. We're not going to fucking back down.
And I tell you what, Giuliani was such a major figure and all that.
Oh, he was.
I'm so surprised that
it turned into this. Also, even like you look at the way the police are, like the way that I look at the NYPD.
Yes.
I was like, they're fucking heroes. My experience in one of the most formative times of my life, coming to New York City, just moving here, becoming a college student, becoming an adult for the first time in my life, this crazy event happened.
Yeah.
And I watched every fucking cop in New York City run toward these buildings that were burning down.
Falling down,
dude. And they were giving their lives. And I'm not going to sit here and just automatically, inherently say, fuck the police.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me because that was my experience. And I know there's a lot of shitty cops out there, but it's not all of them. And
It's not even a lot of them.
It's not even a lot of them at all. That's the absolute truth.
Yeah.
It's really not. There's some bad apples across the board. But I sort of look at, that was a really big moment. And as it relates to comedy, I had that job. We didn't skip a beat. 3 days after 9/11, September 15th, maybe the 16th, we were back out there promoting comedy clubs. And
unless you were too far downtown,
you know,
that was all closed out,
covered in soot.
Yeah, but it was interesting. People gathered together more. Did you notice people were like drawn to each other
Well,
during
this
that?
is exactly what happened. So people, like, selling comedy club tickets was kind of a tough job. But right after 9/11, there was a couple weeks where people were just like, yes, this is what we need.
Yes.
Like, we need to laugh. And that was what became like the pitch, right?
Right.
And people were packing into the comedy clubs. And that was my first time going to see comedy shows right after 9/11. And I watched every single comedian joke about 9/11 that had happened within weeks, right? Every comedian and every person in the audience laughed, and that's all we could do. And it was this amazing thing. I was like, holy shit, dude, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what comedy is. You take something fucked up and ugly and you turn it on its head, and you turn it into something funny, and you get a bunch of people in the room to forget about the bullshit for a minute and laugh. And that's for me, that's what stand-up comedy is. It's what comedy and entertainment, just the comedic, genre within podcasting, movies, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's the powerful thing about it. It's not just making somebody chuckle. It's about you can go a little bit deeper. So that really inspired me in a lot of ways. And from there, I started promoting comedy shows, and I just started hosting my own shows. And then,
did you do open mic stuff and really work on it? You just started hosting.
No,
your own
I started.
shows?
I didn't have to do the open mics because I was. By the time, all right, so I answered that ad, and I was selling comedy club tickets. Within 2 years, I was running the biggest street team in New York City. I just ran my own company. I was like, I don't need these idiots to do it. So I was working with multiple comedy clubs. I had
so they needed you, so you could command the stage when you wanted to.
I was bringing hundreds of people every week to these shows.
Perfect.
And I could just go up on stage, and and there was negatives
what
and
was
positives.
your first time up like? You remember it?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay.
I forgot about the first time you killed. Remember that?
Still haven't. I'm trying. Trying to figure
Someday.
it out.
You're doing pretty good right now.
No, I'm doing
You're kind
right.
of killing here.
No, the first time I killed pretty quick. Killed pretty early. I got pretty
What were
good
you
at
going
doing,
at that you were turning on its head?
I was always
that
good
time?
at just being sort of like, charismatic and conversational. Was
it your own life you were looking at? Was it politics? Was it 9/11?
Oh no, not politics.
Yeah.
It was my own shit. Like
family of origin stuff.
Yeah, sort of like self-deprecation. Darker shit within my own life. That sort of is what always made me laugh. You look at the comics that I love and that I really fell in love with as comedians, the Patrice O'Neills, the Dave Attells, the Burrs, the Louis, like these guys went into very dark shit, and that's always what made me laugh. And we're all just trying to, I'm trying to be as good as those guys. And I'll never be there. I'll never be as good as Louis or Patrice, but that's sort of,
dark shit, you're in the right place today.
Yeah, good.
And so welcome.
Thank
welcome
you.
to a dark place.